What's going on, everybody? Dominic Caminata here in another beautiful Warrior Wisdom Walk. Got the Grosso University campus behind me back there. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's an absolute beautiful day here in Wisconsin. It's about 88 degrees and sunny, so nice and toasty. I love how they have all these extreme heat advisories. Extreme! You mean it's actually finally summer and we get to enjoy some nice warm weather? So I'm definitely gonna get outside and get some vitamin D, get my steps in. Wearing my 75-pound pack. And I got a really great topic I'm gonna talk about, because this is a topic that comes up often when I'm training sales teams and working with sales leaders and owners. It's how can we optimize our training and onboarding for our salespeople to kind of shorten the timeline. And a lot of people are just trying to figure out a way they can get these reps expertly trained and in the most efficient way manner, so these reps are more than prepared and equipped to hit the road running and start converting on these precious opportunities. So I just kind of want to speak to that. How do we shorten the learning curve? How do we make sure it's world class? Because again, the last thing you want to do is try to take shortcuts with your training only to ensure that your reps are not properly equipped for the reality of life. I'd rather make sure they're expertly trained so they're more than knowledgeable enough, confident enough, and educated enough to be top closers. And this is something I was really proud of. I mean, I commonly had green reps that came into my sales team with no previous sales experience in this industry. They would come out of the gate their first month and be top of the leaderboard. And that's something that's very achievable if you have the right training and onboarding experience. So I just kind of want to talk about how do we do this. So, of course, it all starts at the interview. I'm not going to dive too deep in this video on how to interview salespeople, but you definitely want to make sure your interview process is very organized and a world-class experience for that salesperson. Because what really helps a salesperson come out of the gate after their onboarding experience and hit the road running is if they believe in the company they represent, if they believe in their leadership. And that really starts the day of the interview. So make sure my interview process is truly a masterful presentation. How are you organized? How are you orchestrating that conversation? What is your appearance of yourself and your office? Do you look like a 5-star organization, or do you look kind of like a chuck in a truck? So I've literally heard of people interviewing in their gym clothes and not really being attentive or organized for the meetings. And that's a big turnoff for certain salespeople. And already their belief in the company and the leadership of the organization is just not stellar. And whether you like it or not, that has a profound impact on their ability to perform. So make sure that the first interaction you have with that salesperson is absolutely world class. And then you demonstrate that you are a top tier organization, an apex level company, and this is a very serious career that they're applying for, all right? So we can talk for hours about how to interview sales reps and how that should be structured, but assuming you've interviewed a rep, you feel they're a quality candidate, you want to offer them the job, how do we kind of shorten the onboarding and education process? The first thing that everyone should invest in, one way or the other, is an online LMS, a learning management system that basically has all of your step selling video modules on there. It has your product presentations on there, and basically anything a salesperson would need to know to be expertly trained at mastering the art of home improvement selling your company, your products, and your services. So what I encourage all my clients to do is, let's say there's a week or 2 weeks before this new salesperson is actually going to come into your organization and do the live training in the classroom. This becomes really the frontline tip of the spear filtration system for you and your organization, is while that rep is waiting to actually join your company officially day one of employment in the classroom, give them access to an online training platform or an LMS, assign them a series of prep courses. And that's how I'm going to describe this. This is your preparation courses, your prep courses leading up to the actual initial training. And it's mandatory if you want to actually attend the live training in the classroom with our head trainer, you have to complete the prep work. Otherwise, you will not be prepared to actually start the in-class training with our live trainer. So this does two things that are really profound. One is it helps you kind of weed out the people that aren't serious about the role. Because if I assign to them a prep course online and they're not watching any of the video content, or maybe they're fast forwarding through the videos, they're not taking it seriously, that right there tells you they're really not cut out for it. They're not willing to put in the work. And it's kind of like, bye, Felicia. I can move on to a candidate that actually gives a damn. Now, the second thing that is equally, if not even more important, is to master sales, it's all about repetition. Repetition, repetition. Really, to master anything is repetition, but certainly sales. And I can promise you that even if you give a sales rep the most world-class training ever in the classroom, if they only hear something one time, they're not going to retain very much. So by doing a prep course that walks them through the whole sales process, introduces them to your step selling system, your products, your services, your closing sequence, your financial terms, whatever it is, that gives them that first glimpse, kind of 30,000 foot view as to who you are, how you work, how your sales methodology is structured. So then when they attend the live in-class training, they have a much deeper understanding as to what the system's all about. They're already in the right mindset, they got positive momentum, and they're gonna be able to get a lot more out of the live training, because after going through the virtual training on the LMS, they're gonna have a lot better questions. Maybe there's things they need clarity on. It's gonna allow them to much deeper ingrain the sales process and the methodology into their brain. So I think having a prep course, whether it's a week or 2 weeks prior to that employee actually starting their job, is a magnificent way. You can fast track their learning curve, but it's also a way you can give them the necessary repetition they need, so when they get out of the live in-class training, they can hit the road running. But I just want to talk about some case studies. So I had some clients that took my advice and started doing this, and they said it was like night and day, completely changed the culture of their sales team. And these salespeople were coming out of training so prepared and equipped and so much more ready for this profession. And I think the biggest gift for you as an organization and your leadership team is you're going to spend more of your time working with reps in the classroom that are truly cut out for it and willing to put in the work. So that's ultimately what we want to do. So no matter what you do, figure out a way to get an online training platform, an LMS. So right when you hire that person, you can start assigning prep courses where they have to go through a certain set of curriculum leading up to your live in-class training to make sure they're properly equipped and prepared to get the most out of that training. Of course, if you don't have an LMS, this is why people come to Grosso University. We have an online training platform with hundreds of hours of sales training content. And one thing we spend a great deal of time doing right now is creating custom LMSs for home improvement companies all over the United States. So if you don't have one and you'd like one, we can help you create one. But this is certainly something you can create on your own accord. That's what I did when I was at Mad City, is I created an online university for my salespeople. And the year that I created that custom LMS, we grew by $20 million. Now, of course, there's a lot of elements that go into growing a $20 million, having that big of a growth in your sales team. But I knew that one of the reasons why is my salespeople finally had 24/7 access to all the necessary training, educational content, curriculum, all that stuff, so they could truly master the craft. They could get the repetition on their own accord. And also for me as a leader, it was the ultimate foundation of accountability, because if anybody was having a problem with any step of the sales process, I could always assign them things through the LMS and ensure that they go back to the fundamentals of the game and master it. So that's step one. Prep course, absolutely magnificent way to shorten the learning curve. So now they show up to your training. I want to make sure that these salespeople understand from day one that our training is not the path of least resistance. It's the path of resistance. So we want to make sure our sales training is difficult, that we're doing drills for skills. I heard Matt Burke, our COO, today say, drills for skills, pay the bills. But making sure we're getting the necessary repetition in the classroom so they can develop obstacle immunity and have this content down at a subconscious level. And what I want to make sure these salespeople understand is that I'm not going to just throw some training at them, hope and pray that they learn it, and then they basically are able to run leads independently. No, they're going to be taking a final exam, and we are going to test and certify our sales reps. So what I've learned is, simply by a salesperson knowing that they have to take a final exam at the end of the in-person 2-week class session, that right there lights a fire under their tail, and it kind of forces them to learn this stuff faster than they normally would. So it's just like having a goal, right? We say at Grosso University, you are successful when you have a definite, worthwhile, written goal with a precise date and you're presently moving towards it. So it's the same way with education. Because these salespeople have a definite goal in writing with the deadline to achieve it 2 weeks from now, and every day we're moving towards it, they're far more likely to achieve that goal. Whereas if I don't have that deadline, if I say, there's no final exam, you just learn this shit whenever it's convenient for you, it could take them months to learn it. But because we have that deadline, stuff that would normally take them months to learn is now going to get done in a couple weeks because they have to. Because if they want to run leads independently, we have a minimum threshold of performance for them to pass that final exam. And our minimum threshold was 85% proficiency. So if you didn't score at least an 85% or better on the final exam, you are not going to be entitled to running leads independently. So the classroom knowing that ahead of time on day one, that alone can have a profound impact on their ability to learn a lot of material in a short period of time. Now, of course, anytime you're training salespeople, you need to appeal to all the different learning styles. Some people can learn good by hearing what you have to say. Some people can learn by watching what you do on video format, audio visual. Some people need to learn by doing. Some people can learn by reading. So I need to make sure in my training and onboarding that I'm appealing to all the different learning styles with the ears, the eyes, getting the repetition and actually doing things. So they should have a written training book that has the whole sales system spelled out, all the scripting, the methodology, the trial closes, the questions, transitions from one step to the next, the closing roadmap, that whole deal should be in writing. They should have video modules that speak to that so they can read it, they can watch it. And then in the classroom, the best way for them to learn is through repetition, actually doing that thing. So doing it over and over again. Even having them handwrite things. So they're reading it, they're handwriting it, they're watching it, they're listening to it, they're doing it. You need to appeal to all different learning types and learning styles anytime you're doing a training, because everybody truly does learn differently. And this is one thing I was proud of is when I was a head sales trainer for Mad City, we had diverse classes, all different races, ethnicities, genders. And you wouldn't believe, these people would come out all ready to be multi-million-dollar superstars. People that were very sharp and had like photographic memories, or people that were damn near dyslexic and had to read a sentence 25 times before it would sink in, right? That's kind of how I feel sometimes. I'm a very slow learner. But when you structure it correctly, you can appeal to all the different learning styles. So obviously we talked about having a final exam. Now what I've learned in my years of training is that if I just ask a salesperson to learn a certain part of the selling system, I'll get some of them to take it seriously, but most of them won't. And what I learned is instead of just asking them or telling them to do things, why not appeal to what motivates a salesperson? And what people are motivated by today is recognition and competition and camaraderie and money. Money helps. So I tried to appeal to all those motivators, and I would every single day have these friendly sales competitions to where whoever can come back tomorrow and deliver this script the most confidently verbatim in front of their peers is going to win this little trophy, or is going to win this little widget for their inspection kit, shiny new tape measure, thermal camera, is going to get a $100 gas card, whatever gets them fired up. We're gonna throw some tickets to a sporting event this weekend. Any way that they can compete against their peers, have the opportunity to get recognized, and essentially compete for cash prizes, money, or some other form of recognition in the form of an award. And because of this, I realized immediately when I started making my training competitive and difficult, these reps were really drilling and rehearsing and role-playing and essentially coming back the following day with this thing mastered. Now, one little hack I wanted to share with everyone in this video. If you truly do want to shorten the learning curve, there's two things. One, I was training for 8 hours a day all week long. So this was not, train for 2 hours and then you go home and screw off. We were training for 8 hours a day all week long for 2 weeks straight. So that takes a lot of stamina from the trainer. But it shortened the timeline in which I needed to train and onboard a salesperson because we were very comprehensive. But what I also started doing is instead of these reps going home after every training session, I mandated that they all stay in a hotel room during the training. And this is really, really important that you all listen to this. When you have a salesperson going through training and they're able to go home every day, number one, some of these salespeople live an hour or 2 hours away from the headquarters, the corporate training center. And number two, when they go home, what are they gonna get hit with? All kinds of excuses and distractions and basically millions of different reasons why they weren't able to study. And again, I want to eliminate excuses because I told my salespeople, you can make excuses, you can make money, but you can't make both. So I put them up in a hotel room, and there's two major things that I found that provided for the organization and for the sales team. Is number one, it eliminated all the excuses. They have nothing else they could possibly be doing other than role-playing, drilling, and rehearsing the sales system. So that's paramount. That's step one. No excuses. But the second thing that I was really, really pleased with is it created a brotherhood and a camaraderie amongst these salespeople that was unbreakable. Because throughout the entire 2 weeks of in-class training, they're all staying up in this hotel together and they're role-playing together. They're drilling and rehearsing together. They're getting to know each other. They're building a relationship with one another. So what I would notice is when these reps would get out of training, they were constantly supporting one another and competing against each other and holding each other accountable. Because I see a lot of sales teams, it's very fragmented, where all these salespeople are essentially like alone on an island all by themselves, and they don't really have much support. There's no camaraderie, there's no brotherhood, and they don't get to lean on anybody else when they need that therapy session. So I found that when I had these reps going through the training together and it was that intimate and they were able to spend that time in the hotel, it just made the whole sales training experience so much more impactful. And again, it allowed these sales reps to really focus on the drilling, rehearsing, studying. So when they came back each day in the class, man, they were ready to just deliver that script or master that or compete against their fellow peers. It was an absolute magnificent moment. But these are all those profound things we were able to implement over time that allowed me to basically go through a 2-week training with these reps, and they were selling circles around everybody else. Because also when a rep goes through training, I mean, they're fired with enthusiasm. They're so damn enthusiastic to go out there and make money and to prove to themselves and to the company that they can be a top performer. So again, when you're training too, and I'm not going to get in depth about this stuff, but you got to figure out a way to communicate and train to these reps with passion. You got to aim to inspire. So I want these reps so damn energized and inspired and enthusiastic when they get out of the training. They're ready to just go run through walls to go perform and prove themselves to the world that they're the best. So that's kind of what we're looking for. But I just wanted to recap a few things. So of course we got the learning management system, the prep courses leading up to the initial training. Then when they're going through the training, again, 9 to 5, 8 hours a day, we're gonna make our training challenging, we're gonna make it competitive, we're gonna make it fun, we're gonna give them an opportunity to get recognized. I'm gonna put them up in a hotel so they have nothing else they could possibly be doing other than reading, role-playing, drilling, and rehearsing with their peers. And again, they're forging a brotherhood and they're kind of creating their own culture of accountability, which is very priceless, and their own community within that sales team. And then moving on. Okay, so we take the final exam, right? What is the final exam? So let's say they get through the 2-week training, they take that final exam. It should be part written, where they actually have to write the scripts, prove that they know them verbatim, and part role playing. So ideally, in a perfect world, you want the reps to know they're gonna be basically tasked with role playing the foundational scripts and elements of your masterful presentation in front of upper management. Now, if you have the time to actually drill and role play with each rep individually, that's great. One thing we're doing at Grosso University, we're actually using AI to basically role play with reps on a large scale, to where reps can simply record themselves going through the entire sales process from A to Z, and it'll grade them on script adherence, compliance to the sales methodology, tonality, pacing. It'll automatically give us a grade and a score on their proficiency following the system, which is pretty impressive, right? But kind of old school. If you want to sit with them one-on-one, just let them know, like, you're going to be graded not just on the written exam and true or false multiple choice, but they're going to actually have to deliver a masterful presentation, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Now, when they get done with the in-class training, they graduate. Now we need to invest some time riding along. They need to see this whole thing being put together. So I think all salespeople should have at least 1 week of riding along with veteran salespeople, and don't be afraid to mix it up. You know, a lot of leaders are just like, I don't want them riding along with the worst reps on my team that don't follow the system. But it's okay for them to see those things. I kind of want them to see the good, the bad, the ugly, because they're going to learn some things from the good reps. They're going to learn what not to do from the bad reps. And my thing is, if I'm riding along with a rep that I know is subpar, that doesn't do a very good job, and I know that that rep's still closing, wow, does that inspire a lot of confidence in me? It's like, if that rep can sell anything, I'm going to be an absolute killer. And of course, I always get these reps mentally prepared for ride along week, letting them know that first rule of thumb, when you're riding along, you're flying the wall. You're not to interfere with this salesperson's appointment in any form of the fashion. However, one thing that's absolutely important, and this is what you need to tell all your veteran salespeople. Again, the quickest way for any rep to learn something is by doing it, doing that thing. So when they're riding along with the salesperson, that salesperson closes the deal. You need to mandate that that veteran salesperson that the new salesperson is observing hands over all the paperwork, the iPad, the online portal, whatever it is, whatever you're filling out, where that new salesperson can actually get repetition, filling out the agreement, processing the financing, making sure that everything is ordered and priced out properly, so they get actually hands-on experience, fully consummating a sale. Because that's one thing that can backfire, right? Is a salesperson learns the sales process, but then they get out in the real world and close the job and they have no clue what to do next. So I want to make sure, again, in the spirit of shortening the learning curve, that during that ride-along week, they're getting actively involved with the consummation of a sale. So I used to mandate that with my salespeople, is when you have a new rep riding with you and you close the sale, hand everything over to them and walk them through step by step how to fill this out and have them do it. And it's kind of a benefit for both people, right? Because the new salesperson gets that repetition, actually doing things and learning how to fully consummate a sale. And that veteran that just closed a sale can spend their time continuing to build on rapport and make small talk with the homeowner and do a cool down and really start continuing to build on the relationship and the rapport that they already have established with that prospect. So there's a win-win. I used to love that when I had a new rep riding with me and I closed a sale, I'd hand everything over to them. It was less work I had to do. I just kind of talk them through it, and I can focus on the customers, the prospects, the new customers, of course, make them feel good about their investment and continuing to build on that relationship. So of course, the rep's going to be riding along with a veteran salesperson for at least a full week so they can see a variety of different options. And depending on what your work week is, you would assume from Monday to Saturday, hopefully they're running 2 to 3 ride-alongs per day. So they really get a lot of repetition and exposure to all kinds of different sales encounters. So now after that, so they're observing for that week. The last week is where they're actually starting to run leads independently, and they have someone observing them. This could be a field manager, it could be the sales trainer, it could be a veteran salesperson. You can give them a little incentive for doing so, but they need someone observing them now, because I like to think of training a new rep like the sport of curling. Not curling like biceps, but the Olympic sport of curling, where they have that big concrete disc that they're sliding over the ice. And if you notice, they're really intentional on where that thing's going before they release it, right? So it's like a delicate thing. They want to make sure before they let it go that it's going in the right direction. And I'll also talk about the analogy of after they let it go, they're running to the other side of it with the brooms to steer it in the right direction. And that's a whole nother topic, but I want to make sure before I fully release and take the training wheels off the salesperson that they're starting to go in the right direction. So that's why they do need somebody riding along with them to kind of fine tune and course correct a few areas. And ideally, I want to do written evaluations on how their performance is with a real prospect. Because we can practice this stuff philosophically all day long, but doing it for real in the classroom, in a real sales encounter is a whole different thing. But I promise when you combine all these things, you combine the prep courses, which is a week or two before the in-class training. You combine obviously the in-class training where they're staying in a hotel, and every day they're getting assignments, and every day there's a little competition, and they get to role play and compete against their coworkers. And they know that at the beginning of training, there's going to be a final exam where they're going to have to be tested and certified as fluent at the art of the in-home sale. They got to pass with at least 85% proficiency before they would ever be issued leads independently. And then they go on ride-alongs. The expectation is they're going to observe, they're not going to interfere. But when a new sales rep closes or when the veteran salesperson closes that sale, they're going to get actively involved and get repetition, actually doing that thing, get actively involved in the paperwork. So then they know how to fully consummate a sale. They can put the puzzle piece together. And then the fourth and final week there is I'm going to make sure that they're running leads and they have someone observing them. So they are going in the right direction, and I can kind of course correct and fine tune them before, again, we fully release them to the wild and take the training wheels off. So 4 weeks may sound like a big time commitment, but I promise you that if you invest this 4 weeks properly, you will in fact have sales warriors hitting the road running, coming out of the gate, lighting up the leaderboard, and becoming top performers in your organization. It shouldn't take months and months for these salespeople to get to cruising altitude. If it's taken that long, there's some malfunction in terms of how the training and onboarding is structured. So a lot of great advice here, but I just want to summarize it. If you're looking to shorten the learning curve and onboarding experience, there's a lot of different things you can do, but ultimately all these things take effort on your part. If you want to significantly accelerate all this for your company and your team, Grosso University has the LMS. We have the 2-week training program you can plug right into called our Sales Academy Masterclass. We test and certify reps for you. That way you can spend your precious time working on reps that are truly committed, and you don't have that devastating cost of a mishired, mistrained employee. So this is why people come to us, because we can do a lot of heavy lifting so you can focus on working on your business, not in your business. But all these things, if you're willing to put in the effort, make the investment in a learning management system, a really great training system, make your training fun, difficult, competitive, test them out, have a final exam, have some post-training education, molding, and support, get them to actually learn by doing things. I promise you're going to be able to build a top-tier organization. And this is why, like the last year at Mad City, we grew by over $30 million, and we felt like we could literally print our own money. It was easy because the system was so dialed in. Training and onboarding reps actually became so easy, and creating multi-million-dollar superstars, it was just rinse and repeat over and over because the system was so dialed in. So hopefully this inspires some of you sales leaders. If there's anything you took away from this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, comment, like, and subscribe, share it with your friends. And again, it occurs to us that most of the people that watch our videos are not subscribed to our channel. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, it really helps to boost our channel. Again, we're going to be serving up hundreds and hundreds of hours of free training content to educate you on how to build an apex level company and be a top sales warrior in your chosen profession. So make sure you stay tuned as we release more and more of this amazing content. I appreciate you walking with me. Again, it's a 75-pound pack here. If you see me breathing and sweating, again, it's almost 90 degrees. But again, thanks for staying with me. On behalf of Grosso University, yes, you are a closer.